incredible.
Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today we're going to be looking at filters inside of Monark. First, let's do a little audio demonstration just to show you the differences between them. It doesn't look like there's a lot, but the filters here are very well designed and sound awesome. When you combine this much attention to detail all together, it gets pretty wild, and the filters are no exception. So let's go ahead, and I'm on the preset defined in the classic folder, and as I move the filter cutoff up, we've got the contour knob moving here too. So there's also some envelope stuff going on. But just check out the difference, because I'm going to do the same thing with all four filters, and you're going to notice like how different they sound. Part of that is because they have different decibel, they're different poles, meaning one is a 24 pole rejection per octave, one is 12, one is 6, and one is the bandpass is 12 on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and play it for you and just give you a listen. Pay attention to the way the resonance interacts too. We've also not messed with load and feedback, but some of these are programmed to respond differently, like very dynamically to these things as if it were, you know, a particular analog synth. So let's go ahead and play a couple notes. Play a low note. Maybe a bit higher up. Okay, so. And with this particular thing, I usually take the decay down. But let's go ahead and give the same listen to the low pass too. So you notice the resonance plays a way different role, like resonance galore. Let's go to the low pass one. And then the band pass. So pretty cool deal. The one I use a lot is the first one, but you can tell each one has its purpose and its use, and they each have their own sound to them. So you'll find yourself switching between these just to see what would it sound like with this one versus that one. And because they have different cutoff values, they'll sound particular ways. So let's go ahead and talk about this a little bit more. So if we go into the initialized value, we can begin to just sort of look at things by themselves without that filter stuff going on. So, okay, I mean, we could have defaulted it all. That's just a fast way of defaulting. So here we've got our first filter. This is like the fanciest one, the one that was designed to change. Like this is the one they were specifically modeling their goal, the filter, their goal filter. So it is a 24 dB per octave rejection low pass. That's pretty much all it is. And as you get your envelope in this deal, it begins to become a lot of fun. But we're not to that stage quite yet. So that's just a low pass. And these are just various low passes. So you see here, we go to the next one. And then that one obviously is the most. And then if we go to our band pass, it's 12 on both sides. At least I believe it's 12 on both sides. So that is that, and obviously the cutoff value changes where our rejection begins. And so that's that. Now let's go ahead and go to our resonance. Our resonance, we've already kind of learned a little bit about our resonance, but our resonance is just a boost and where the cutoff value is. So if we just boost some resonance here. But we've also learned that resonance sounds very pronounced on these two. Part of the magic of this one is how the resonance knob behaves in conjunction with everything. Because we saw that when we do self-oscillation, that the resonance becomes quite a deal. So let's go ahead and look at the resonance by itself first. So we're like, wow, okay, cool. We take a mental note of what that sounds like. Okay, cool. And then, of course, the band pass. Now let's do the same thing, only in a self-oscillation. So let's go ahead and set this at a reasonable value. And there we are. And let's do that too. Okay, cool. So let's try the self-oscillation first with the fanciest one. Okay, cool. Then the next one. Well, first let's just keep it the same note. Listen. Okay. See, that one's actually a different pitch. So there's some interesting things that go on here. I believe that's because there's a phase shift. I don't have like the technical reasons, but I'm just pointing out to you that there are going to be differences. And then our last one. You'll also find that where you place these settings, the resonance settings, the feedback, and the load will all change in how these things sort of play together. So that's part of the magic of this sort of game, is there's going to be like a particular combination that may enhance your sound in a way that would not work on any other patch. It's just like, for whatever reason, these settings in this way sound awesome together. I've just found a great relationship. That's one of the fun things about now having an actual mini Moog in real life. Obviously, it's like that's where the real magic's at. But this is trying to get it, and it's captured an element of that I think is really cool and important. So let's go ahead. So that's the cutoff. That's the resonance. Let's go ahead and go back to a regular sound and be a little more reasonable about our lives. And maybe go up an octave. And then our last one here is the contour knob. So the contour knob is sort of an interesting deal that I'm going to leave for the video on envelopes, because that's when it comes into play in conjunction with this envelope. And it's not going to be like a regular envelope. I still assume you know what envelopes do, but this can get a little confusing because these two values represent time and this represents levels. So we'll just conquer that in that one. But I do want to touch on the key tracking here. So we have key tracking, and by turning them off, this value, the cutoff, these augment the cutoff value. They're down here, but they augment the cutoff value. And with them off, obviously the cutoff value is not augmented by what key we're pressing on the keyboard. So if I had to press a higher key or a lower key, the cutoff value don't care. As soon as I turn it on, it begins to care a little bit more. I believe it's 1/3. We can even hover, 1/3. And so right now, it'll care to 1/3. And if we turn that one off, turn on the next one, it'll care up to 2/3. And then if we turn them both on, it'll care 100% about that. So when we push a key, our cutoff value will change according to the key we push. Whereas here, it will change according to the key we push, but not as much. And this one will change a little bit more, but still not quite. So it's not necessarily a patch where you could actually play the cutoff knob as a note. But the reason these exist is because let's say that like, oh, in my low end, I mean, maybe on your high end, it completely goes away. It's like filtered out because the cutoff value is like down low, but it's correct when it's at the low end. So you want to restore some of that brightness. So let's say like, oh, this is what I want, right? Like, oh, that's my goal. But if I go to a higher note, I'm like, oh, there's no note there. Oh no. So let's say I want to restore some of that. So go back down and hit that E. Okay, so now let's turn on. So it'll carry up to 1/3 right now. So we hit it. And you see it actually already brightens up a bit. So this thing's moving over. Because it's a ratio, it won't move over like perfectly. It'll be proportional to the note. So if we go up, but we see, oh, okay, like there's a note there now. Now if we do the other one, there'll be even more of a note. Like, hey, the cutoff knob is simply responding to the higher note we're hitting on the keyboard when we come back down low. And we see a lot more of our notes present there. So you're going to want to find like your balance and your ratio, figure out exactly what you want. And then if you do them both, it'll move. I mean, the cutoff knob will move 100% according to the note you're pushing. So it's not like going to do it proportionally as you get higher. So it's good for augmenting the brightness of a patch. That's one use for it. And yes, that is that. Now we do have the modulation. You've seen this thing in action a couple times though. So we can use oscillator 3 to move the cutoff knob. So if we're simply using it as an LFO. You can think of this sort of as the performer tab inside of Massive. So that's that. It's pretty simple, straightforward deal, but these filters are so cool. Like they sound just really good. And in combination with the elements they've been given here, they just work together in ways that are somewhat magical sometimes. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe, support me on Patreon, and have a blessed day.
You are going through a portal to another dimension. A wonderful world full of mystic paradise.